What's going on, everybody? You have Tone here, back with some more Draft League content, this time bringing you guys my draft analysis for a brand new Draft League, the YCL. After some coercion of some sort, I decided, you know what, why not? Granted, I was going to make the SBU my final Draft League before Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out. I decided, against my better judgment, to go against that and delve into a bit more Draft League to head into the end of the year for the most part. There also will be another Draft League on top of that, which I will get into as well in sometime down the line within the next week or so, maybe. But yeah, this is the YCL, another Draft League. Just a very straightforward standard draft, nothing too fancy for the most part. Considering all the other leagues I did take part in is sort of on the back end heading into playoffs, with one of them already being in playoffs as it is. This is more likely the last, at least for the most part, the last standard draft I might do for a bit, heading into the end of 2021, even into 2022. But at least for this league, at the very least, this is a very shortened draft for the most part. The league itself, it's a very shortened season, so there won't be many games, which is good for me because the sooner I can get a break, the better. But in any case, jumping into the team itself, how things went. I do feel very, very comfortable with the team I did end up drafting for this league. For the most part, how the draft works was there are 24 coaches in the league, which was divided into two separate pools of 12. And then we drafted a team of 11 Pokemon with a budget of 940 points. Maybe weird. Was thinking maybe a round number like 1,000, but it is what it is. So we had 940 points to draft a team of 11 Pokemon. I am pretty happy with the team I did end up getting for this league. It has a bunch of Pokemon that I've used before, some new faces for the most part, but stuff I was definitely looking to try out. And if it for the most part doesn't work out, I'm more or less just doing it for a bit of fun, as far as I'm concerned. But the team itself does look very, I guess you could say, competitive, or for the most part top heavy. So yeah, so a little bit of a different way of doing this for this draft analysis video. Instead of doing it pick by pick, I'm actually going to show you guys my entire draft right away, and then go from there from a pick by pick perspective, probably just to speed things up, not to drag out anything, because of the fact that I've been doing draft for well over 5 years now, and for the most part, I don't want to go on and on about stuff that I've already talked about with mons I've already used in the past. I try to want to make things as simple as possible for you guys, the viewers, and for myself to not drag on the video any longer than it should. That's just my own perspective. I appreciate it if you guys do think along the lines that I do, because I don't really like dragging things out longer than unnecessary. So, like I'm doing now. But anyway, without further ado, let me show you guys the team I ended up drafting for the YCL season number 4. So here it is. So yeah, that is my entire draft, all 11 Pokemon that I am drafted for this team. And for the most part, it has a nice combination of mons I've used before, mostly, for the most part, the top half, like everything from Roserade and up I've used before. And everything below Roserade, with the exception of Noctowl, which I currently have, and another league I have not used before. I have faced some of them, with the exception of the last mon. But yeah, the team itself was really, really fun overall. It looks kinda top heavy for the most part, but it has a nice combination of balance, bulk, offense, pretty much stuff that I really like when it comes to drafting teams. And in the mostly typical fashion of me, well, I have a ground resist. Well, I actually have a ground resist. It's not a good ground resist, but it's a ground resist nonetheless. But, yeah, so let me just jump right into the team that I ended up drafting. So, first pick, I picked up Garchomp. So out of the 12 coaches that I was separated into the draft pool with, I had the 10th pick in the draft, and I more personally prefer to draft towards the back end of the draft, so that way I have more time to plan my draft, or not really plan, but take what the best available mon that fits my style of play, and then go from there. And while there were other higher tier mons, I figured I wanted my draft to be balanced enough to the point where everything fits together nicely, and good enough to the point where I'm not strapped for points towards the back end, even though it looks like I really was strapped at the back. Like, I have two 20-point mons, two 40-point mons. There's not really much of diversity in terms of, like, picks, and there's also the fact that there are some of speed tiers that are very jumbled together, but I tried to make do with what was available at the time. So Garchomp being my first pick, with 140 points, there were other mons available that were there was Landorus Therian, I think, was available, Tapu Lele, other Pokemon like that, but the thing was, they were a bit on the expensive side, and I wanted to draft something that is versatile, but relatively cheap for its price. And round 1 Garchomp from a late round 1 perspective felt very comfortable for me, because it's not just limited to being a stealth rocker. It can be Swords Dance with Scale Shot, it can be Choice Scarf, it can be bulky. It can run a plethora of sets, and that's basically what I like about a Pokemon like Garchomp, being versatile enough to confuse and confound my opponent, and it fits my playstyle, because I like doing these bulky sort of builds. It fits my playstyle perfectly as far as I'm concerned. Dragon Ground typing, very, very nice. Solid base 102 speed to outspeed the base 100s. Very solid attack stat, can boost it with Sword Head, as I said. Scale Shot for potential speed boost. Earthquake, Stone Edge, fire coverage like Fire Blast, Fire Fang, stuff like that. Very, very good at what it does. And fits my playstyle very, very nicely. So that is Garchomp. Then, as for the second pick, Clefable. God, I have not used Clefable in so long. I think I remember the last time I used it, and the last time I used Clefable was in a Natdex league, and nothing against people who do Natdex leagues. I just don't feel comfortable doing a metagame that's not really true to the current state of the game. It just doesn't feel right. It feels. It feels. I don't know what the wording is for this, but it doesn't feel the same as in previous generations where everything was available. It's limited in the actual Galadex. I want to keep it that way. I don't want to prep for stuff that isn't really there in the game, but I'm getting off topic right now. But back to Clefable, for the most part. Clefable is definitely one of my top 3 fairy types in the format. Ranks up there with Gardevoir. I still actually like Clefable a little bit more than Gardevoir, but Gardevoir has definitely holds a place in my heart as one of my favorite fairy types and psychic types for the most part. But Clefable is just so good. It's so versatile. It can also be a stealth rocker. It can be Calm Mindsets with Moonblast, can give me momentum with Teleport now, can knock off, and of course my tried and true Clefable set, the most underrated Clefable set of all, and that's Tank Fable. No one really appreciates offensive Clefable as much as I do. Not trying to mince words or put anybody else in the spot that uses offensive Clefable, but I absolutely love the crap out of Tank Fable. It is so good, so underrated. Magic Guard, Life Orb, modest attacks from Clefable is so doggone strong. It's so unprepared for, because everyone that sees the Clefable always expects Clefable to be used in a defensive role, and while that is the case, Clefable is so far from that norm. It's so good offensively, and don't knock it until you try it. That's all I gotta say about that. Clefable is just so doggone good. Don't knock it until you try it. You don't have to take my word for it. Just take it for a spin. Really experiment with Clefable, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed. But hopefully I get to showcase some of what Clefable can do in this draft league for sure. So that is Clefable. Very nice, very typing, and of course goes very, very well with Garchomp, all that stuff. And then of course there's other options like Wish, can keep Garchomp healthy with Wish sets, can be Unaware to negate setup sweepers, can be Boots Unaware with Soft Boil, which is going to be very, very annoying for my opponents to deal with. So yeah, very vast variety of options at my disposal with Clefable. Then moving on with Aegislash. Aegislash completes the Dragon Fairy Steel Core, which I don't really deem, it doesn't really feel necessary as far as I'm concerned, because I've done other draft leagues where I've built teams where I don't have a dragon type. It's pretty much for me come to the point where dragon typing has become a lot less more mandatory. Like if you draft your team well enough, then the dragon typing becomes a bit more of a liability than a necessity as far as I'm concerned, but it only works out here just because Garchomp is a dragon type. As for Aegislash itself, it's kind of fallen off to the point where I got this thing round 3. It's definitely not as good as it was in previous generations. Did get nerfed a bit from its stats, but it can still hold its own from a defensive and offensive perspective. It fits together very, very well with what I currently have. The only thing I didn't really have at this time was a dedicated ground switching, since Garchomp and Clefable are both hit neutrally by ground, but Aegislash's weaknesses are covered nonetheless. The fire weakness is covered by Garchomp. I did address the ground weakness with my next pick, as well as the ghost weakness. So yeah, Aegislash is very, very good. Can be Swords Dance, can be defense, can be used defensively, can run Choice Band, Choice Specs is also a possibility. And even Autotomize is still a very, very good set to run on Aegislash if you're able to pull it off. Like, it's still very, very good. It can be very, very predictable for some 50-50 situations. But still, I still think it's a really, really good mon. Not great, but I feel like for round 3, it's still very good at what it does, especially considering the typing, the ability to make my opponent think twice about making physical contact with King's Shield, and yeah, it can be a nuisance altogether. But yeah, very, very solid mon. Felt it was warranted at least for the round 3 pick. Definitely wasn't round 1, but I know some people do value Aegislash a lot more than I do in this sort of situation. But yeah, that is Aegislash. And then we move on to my round 4 pick, Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz, a lot of people don't like Mandibuzz because of the fact that it just feels so passive. Like, it's bulky, it takes hits, it U-turns, it knocks off, it defaults, it does a bunch of stuff defensively, but it just feels like, for the most part, it's basically an offensive liability. And while that may be the case, I overlook the lack of offensive ability on Mandibuzz is offset by how you build around Mandibuzz. You can use it as a pivot into strong breakers, and that's pretty much the idea with how Mandibuzz is basically meant to function. If you have something like this, like Mandibuzz, which is passive, and you surround it with more passive stuff, you're going to get a lot less out of it unless you're dedicating yourself to full stall on draft, which is not really the ideal way to go. At least like semi-stall is doable, but with semi-stall you have to cover for a whole lot more stuff. Like, this team that I drafted here obviously is far from a semi-stall team. Like, it's more of a balanced approach as opposed to semi-stall. Like, I have a lot of offensive stuff, a lot of niche stuff at the bottom. Mandibuzz is basically here to be the supporter, the sort of glue that holds the team together. Being a dark type and a flying type, knockoff is very, very useful on teams, especially with people relying on heavy duty boots to not take stealth rock damage. It gives me a defogger, it gives me momentum with U-turn to get in my breakers. Knockoff foul play, I already talked about. Roost for longevity. Like, it's simplistic in what it's designed to do, and like I said, if you're able to build a team with Mandibuzz that can make up for its offensive liabilities, then Mandibuzz is still really, really good in that sense. And that brings me to round 5, and that is Urshifu Rapid Strike. And yeah, I think if it comes to anything, if it's one Pokemon that I've used so much over the last few draft leagues, this is the Mon. Urshifu Rapid Strike is so ridiculously good if you know how to build with it or properly utilize what it brings to a team. Immediately, the first thing that comes to mind with Urshifu Rapid Strike is if you're facing one, you're going to have to face off with a Rocky Helmet user, which is why Protective Pads became essentially the most utilized item for me on Urshifu Rapid Strike, especially with the signature move Surging Strikes, which always crits and hits 3 times. So people want to rack up the damage with the Rocky Helmet, but the thing I've noticed in all the times prior when I've used Urshifu Rapid Strike, which I also have in another league and utilizing it myself in my run in the SDA where it ended up being the kill leader, is the fact that if I run Protective Pads, obviously you won't get the power behind Choice Band, you won't be Scarfer, and whatever the case may be. But a lot of the times I've noticed when it comes to people utilizing Rocky Helmet to counteract Urshifu Rapid Strike, they never really bother to try to knock off the pads. And while Rocky Helmet is really nice to cripple my Urshifu, more often than not, I will be running Protective Pads to mitigate any Rocky Helmet damage, prevent potential flame body burns, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, other than that though, Urshifu Rapid Strike is just really, really good. It's a strong, powerful breaker, benefits from Mandibuzz bringing it in with the U-turn with momentum, also benefits from Clefable getting this minus momentum speed with Teleport, which is also really, really nice to get in my Urshifu for free. Provides me momentum itself with U-turn, gets Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Close Combat, Drain Punch, pretty much anything I want Urshifu to run in a role, it will function super, super well. It is just so doggone good if utilized properly. And all the times I've used it, Urshifu has never disappointed. So yeah, that is Urshifu Rapid Strike. Then we have the Roserade pick. Roserade is a pretty good mon. Gives me a grounded poison type to absorb potential toxic spikes, which doesn't really hamper my team that much, but having the option of a grounded poison is always good. The grass typing is also helpful for being a switch into water attacks. Most water moves, not all of them. It also gives me potential with spikes, toxic spikes, walled by steel types, but steel types I'm pretty much covered with a combination of Clefable or Urshifu Rapid Strike. So yeah, Roserade can definitely function in this role very, very well. Can also function as a status absorber with Natural Cure. Technician will probably not see that much usage, especially with Hidden Power no longer being a thing. But yeah, Roserade is just a very, very good mon, as far as I'm concerned. Can be run both offensively and defensively. It also gets other support options, mainly stuff like Sleep Powder, can leech seed stuff. So yeah, it's not limited to just one specific role. I can pretty much run it any way I want in a defensive or offensive role, even potentially as a Scarfer, and it will still function extremely, extremely well. I've used Roserade once when I played in UPA. It was kind of hit and miss, but for the most part, it was still pretty decent as far as I'm concerned. And hopefully I can do a bit more with Roserade this time around. Now we get to the back end of my draft and the bottom 5 picks. So, Excelgor. You notice my team, the main Achilles heel of my team wasn't fast. Outside of Excelgor, I have nothing above 110. Nothing. Next fastest mon is my next pick, but Excelgor gives me much needed speed. Another potential spiker and toxic spiker to go along with Roserade, but the main aspect of having Excelgor is to have that general speed aspect, especially having something faster than, let's say, Zero Aura, which is 143. Excelgor is 145. So that sort of thing is also really, really nice. It also gives me knockoff. It also has knockoff. It gives me U-turn. Can be encore. Has a good special coverage. Bug Buzz, Focus Blast, Sludge Bomb, Energy Ball for the most part. Like, it has decent enough coverage, and it's usable enough to, on this team in particular, to not just function as a like hyper offense lead. It can function really, really well, even as a bulky role if I really want to go that route, and be like max HP, Final Gamut, or whatever to get rid of something more threatening for the team. So that's really, really nice to have for the most part. But yeah, the general speed, the added option of spikes is basically the reason why I went Excelgor with this pick. Sorry about that. Yeah, then we move on to the like lesser tier stuff. So Rapidash. There's nothing really much saying about Rapidash. Like, it's one of those Pokemon that you don't really think of for a draft league team, but the main reason behind Rapidash was because of the fact that I wanted a fire type. At the same time, I wanted something to at least somewhat close the speed gap between Garchomp and Excelgor. Nothing really else fit that, considering the budget I had left at this point. So I went with Rapidash because of those specific roles, so to speak. Can still function really, really well as a bulky fire type. Like, it does get Morning Sun for recovery. Can still be effective as an offensive role with Flare Blitz, Wild Charge, Drill Run, High Horsepower. Whichever one's stronger, I think it's High Horsepower for the most part. And if I gotta double check the rules, if I can at least, at the very least, Dry Pass, Rapidash does get Baton Pass, so I can act as a fast Baton Pass pivot if I have to. So yeah, it's a really weird mod to think about when it comes to draft, but at the same time though, Rapidash did fulfill 2 roles on my team, especially, well, 3 roles, considering it's a fire type that gives me something faster than Garchomp, and it gives me a fire immunity, which helps out my Aegislash. It lessens the need for Garchomp to come in on fire moves, as well as Urshifu, because its special defense is not the best. So yeah, Rapidash does have that specific role in mind for specific matchups. So yeah, hopefully I can utilize Rapidash in that role. And then next up we have my Abomasnow. Abomasnow is also another Pokemon I actually wanted to draft for the longest time, but I never actually do because of the fact that, well, it never really fit my team for the most part. It never fit the mold in terms of what I wanted to do with a specific draft. Abomasnow is still very iffy, but at the same time though, it's still pretty decent. While nothing on my team benefits from hail, like in terms of like Slush Rush, or like being a like hail sweeper, like I don't have like a Alolan Sandslash or an Arctozold, Arctovish. I don't have stuff like that. It can still function pretty decently as a heavy duty boots attacker. It can be mixed with perfect accurate blizzards. Has priority with Ice Shard, which I had a priority already on my Aegislash and on my Urshifu, and to a lesser extent Water Shuriken, Excelgor, but I digress. And if I want to go even further, I think Rapidash gets Quick Attack, but for the most part, it functions pretty well, and for the most part, Abomasnow does get Aurora Veil. So if I want to run Abomasnow in a more supportive role with Aurora Veil to make it easier for the rest of my team to set up, then yeah, that option is available. It can still also function as like a potential Choice Scarf Revenge Killer with Blizzard. If I had to like Revenge Kill something faster that normally would outspeed me, that's also an option. So yeah, that's Abomasnow. There's not much else to say about it. Like I said, like it's just really it's good as a potential Scarfer, mixed attacker, stuff like that. It's really hard to talk about a mon you've never drafted before, but you wanted to use. So yeah, that is Abomasnow. But speaking of mons that I wanted to use and used already, There's not much else to say about Noctowl. I couldn't believe the fact that they actually had Noctowl of all Pokemon in the lowest tier possible. Like, that is an absolute disrespect to the owl. The absolute disrespect. Choice Specs, well, not even Choice Specs, but Tinted Lens Hurricanes is so ridiculously good for a mon like Noctowl, especially considering it can set up with Nasty Plot, it can be Agility, it can be Calm Mind. It doesn't even have to be set. Like I said, Choice Specs. Choice Specs Hurricane, when your opponent's flying resist, has a flying resist, but doesn't care because Tinted Lens makes Hurricane hit neutrally. And basically it comes down to the fact of hitting a Hurricane, but I'm willing to take those risks. I've taken risks before. Like, one of my prior videos had me use Double Dance Noctowl, and it did a lot of work, and I really want to try to utilize and try to do it again. And like, I know I'm hyping this model way too much than I should have, but it just blew my mind seeing that Noctowl was 20 points in the lowest tier possible, and I was like, nah, I gotta snag you up. And it also gives my team a much needed ghost immunity. Like, I had a ghost resistant Mana Buzz, but having the immunity in general, it is really, really helpful, as well as having another ground immunity on top of that. So yeah, that is the Noctowl. And then moving on to the last mon. No, I did not draft this Pokemon because it has my name in it. No, that is not the reason. The main reason for drafting Lunatone in with my last pick, less so a meme pick, more so I had no Psychic type. I wanted some Psychic type Pokemon. It gave me another ground immunity, and for the most part, it was like literally the only Pokemon I saw in the F tier that I actually wanted to try at least once. Lunatone was the one Pokemon. Like, if it doesn't do work, it doesn't do work, but hey, it's something. But for the most part, Lunatone is another Stealth Rocker. It's a normal resist. For the most part, can comment on specific Pokemon. Like, there's not a lot of Pokemon that Lunatone would actually switch in on because Rock is still a bad defensive typing. But yeah. Gives me a ground immunity, gives me a Stealth Rocker, and can be pretty cheeky since it does get access to Future Sight. So Future Sight in conjunction with a fighting type with momentum like Urshifu, it sounded pretty fun. And Lunatone was pretty much the only Pokemon in that low tier that had the whole Future Sight decent enough Psychic type Pokemon to pull off with, as well as giving me another Stealth Rocker, a potential roll compressor with like having rocks, so I don't have to run rocks on Garchomp, rocks on my Clef, stuff like that. So yeah, that was pretty much the mindset behind Lunatone, and hopefully I can bring Lunatone at least once. If I can bring Lunatone at least one time in any of my games, I will be happy. And I will force that issue if I have to. But nonetheless, though, that is going to be the draft analysis for the Miami Malamarlins. Let me know what you guys think about the team in the description down below. Be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button, and I will see you all next Saturday for week number 1 of the YCL. And until the next time, though, this is Tone, signing out for now. Peace out.